We must abandon the failed policy of nation building and regime change. Regime change takes chaos. You've seen how that works over the last 20 years. That hasn't been too good. We're getting out of the nation building business. We're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place.
So welcome everyone to Liberty One Studios here in beautiful Greenville, South Carolina. I wanted to jump on and give you my perspective and what I, believe what is going on here in Venezuela. So, I mean, I've said this before, ever since I started this show a year ago, that one of the hardest things to do is to come up with a show. And because with Trump, it's like there's always new bullshit coming out because he never shuts the fuck up or stops what he's doing. It's like just a constant snowball of information. And he does that to confuse the voters. And it works. And let me give you for instance, literally, it turns out that the State Department came out and stated that Maduro, the president of Venezuela, who has just been literally kidnapped and sent to New York to go to trial, which is sort of funny because weren't Republicans talking about, and MAGA was talking about how corrupt the system is in New York, but yet that's where you decide to hold the trial for Nicolas Maduro, the president of Venezuela. Like, do these people actually really believe in anything? Or are they just going along like a fish with eyes swirling around, over their head? And it's frustrating because on one second, I'll see people who will say, that's it, I'm done with Trump. And then 2 seconds later, they're right back with him with the next stupid thing that Trump does. And then they'll go back to hating him. So, it's like people need to make up their mind and decide, what team are you on? Are you on Team Liberty and freedom and the Constitution? Or are you just Team Trump? Like, what are you? See, the thing to understand is I'm not a part of either political party, right? I don't belong to either party. I will go after the Democrats just as hard as I will the Republicans. But, I will say this, that over the past 6 months, Trump has been destroying the MAGA base. And a poll just came out that 2 out of 3 Americans now are displeased with what Trump did in Venezuela. They do not support what Trump did in Venezuela. And I will put up a poll showing that 1 out of 3 Americans support what Trump did. So basically 2 out of 3 don't. But I will also put up the clip showing that the State Department has now retracted its story about Maduro being part of a drug cartel. So this is Trump's WMD, right? If everybody remembers with Iraq, you had Colin Powell, you had Vice President Dick Cheney going out there on the Sunday talk shows week after week after week, talking about how Iraq had weapons of mass destruction. They're going to kill us. This is the worst thing in the world. We got to stop them. And it turned out that they didn't. Well, now we just had a bombshell come out showing that the president of Venezuela, Maduro, was not part of this terrorist gang, drug gang. And the State Department decided to come out with that now after we've already got Maduro. How convenient for them, right? After telling the American people week after week, month after month. I mean, Marco Rubio just came out in November talking about this. I mean, these people are just straight up liars. And look, I don't feel good I wanted to come on, so please excuse my voice or my breathing if I'm breathing a little heavy. I don't know what I have. I took a strep throat. I took a COVID test. They both came back negative, but I have something. And, who knows what it is, right? The way people walk around today, it could be anything. But, so anyway, I wanted to talk about two issues that came up regarding the attack in Venezuela. And I want to also drive home the fact that we have service members who basically took shrapnel and a bullet on this mission. Okay, so we have service members who are injured, okay? It's not fatal, it's not critically injured, right? But that served honorably, okay, on behalf of what the president decided to do, which was to invade Venezuela and steal their president and the first lady of Venezuela. And so right now we have service members that I don't see Fox News talking about. I don't see Newsmax talking about, or see Newsmax talking about, or CNN talking about, right? Nobody's talking about the service members that got injured in this attack. Because as many times as you will see, oh, thank you for your service, thank you for your service, they always screw over the sailor, airman, troop, soldier, okay, is always overlooked, okay? No matter how many times they say, we support the troops, they don't, okay? They're full of it, and I'm sick and tired of it. So first off, I want to give a salute to our brothers and sisters who went over there, although I don't agree with the mission, okay? And I hope that our troops heal and get better, right? And get healthy soon, okay? But do I believe that they should have taken a bullet for what happened in Venezuela? Of course not. I'm not for war. I'm not for a regime change war. And MAGA wasn't either. Just a year ago, Trump was giving speeches about, we're not going to have regime change wars anymore. We're not going to police the world anymore.
We must abandon the failed policy of nation building and regime change. Regime change takes chaos. You've seen how that works.
What happened, MAGA? Where did you people go? Well, I'll tell you where they went. A lot of them have left the MAGA party. They've left. They see Trump for what he is. Okay, he's a con man and a charlatan, and they're tired of it. And I'm going to get into some of this in the future. So anyway, President Trump had a disastrous briefing at the Kennedy Center with Congress, some, congressmen, mainly Republicans. And he also had a disastrous press conference on Air Force One. Now, when Trump went to the Kennedy Center, he had a meeting with Republicans who are in the Congress about the invasion in Venezuela. Now, here's the thing. Look at the pictures I'm going to put up. Look at what this guy looked like. Now, these are not AI pictures. This is how this guy was behaving after this mission. Okay, and you tell me if this is dignified of the President of the United States. I'm going to put up these pictures, and I'm going to come right back. Now, looking at these pictures, it is no wonder why MAGA podcasters and voters are fleeing. And I was going to do a video on all the podcasters and that are left Trump, prominent ones. But, then Trump came in with this Venezuela thing and all of this, and now this memo came out from the State Department talking about that Maduro was not part of a drug cartel after blowing up boats and ships. So then what about the justice for those boats and ships that those people got killed in the Caribbean? This is why people have a right to a trial. This is why we have something called due process, right? We don't just go around killing people based on their suspicion. And I am sick and tired of this is basic civics, basic, simple human decency. I want to curse, but I don't want YouTube to attack this broadcast, right? Because I believe it's so important that we get the information out to people. But I want to tell you, I want to scream four-letter words when I think about all the murder and mayhem. They're saying now upwards of 80 to 100 people in Venezuela were killed. Plus our soldiers were injured. What is wrong with you people? You megalomaniacs. Now, the thing is, when Trump was having the meeting at the Kennedy Center with Republicans, he was talking about the reason why he did the strike on Maduro over the weekend was because Maduro was out there dancing. Now, this was picked up by the New York Times and other sources that were inside the meeting and are saying that Trump was upset because Maduro looked like he was trying to upstage Trump in dancing and making Trump look like a fool. Play the clip.
And, he's a violent guy. He gets up there and he tries to imitate my dance a little bit. But he's a violent guy.
Then, afterwards, Trump moves on to talking about the oil. Drill, baby, drill. Let's play the next clip.
There were 14 companies. I'm meeting with them all. I'm also meeting with oil companies. Let's go. You know what that's about. We've got a lot of oil to drill, which is going to bring down oil prices even further. But
now, one of the more important things to remember about this entire intervention is that Trump is now out there talking about having you, the taxpayer, pay to rebuild Venezuela, to build their oil fields, to give free welfare to Trump's donors. And it's not just Trump's donors. I mean, the oil companies own both parties. Okay, let's just be honest. Okay, but these are donors of Trump's. Okay, and this is how donors get paid back. This is one way that donors get paid back. This is why I believe that we should put a law in place that Jesse Ventura came up with about 10 or 15, probably about 15 years ago, where politicians should wear white jackets and they put the patches of their donors on the jacket and on their suit, like a racing suit. This way, Americans know exactly who these creeps work for, right? Because they're not working for you, right? So what happened was Trump is out there now talking about, America not just rebuilding the oil fields and wells and pipes and everything else, right? Because ExxonMobil needs more money, right? But also rebuilding the bridges and roads and all of this. Now, I think it's really important to talk about this because Trump admitted that he notified the oil companies before notifying Congress, right? Now, there's a gang of 8 where there's Republicans and Democrat leaders that usually when a president is going to attack something or something big is going to happen, you notify these people, right? And there's a reason for that, right? In case something catastrophic goes wrong, right? These men and women, right, can jump into action, right? And everybody's notified. Instead, Trump is negotiating, making all these side deals with the oil companies, okay? And we're talking hundreds of billions of dollars, okay? We are racing towards $40 trillion in debt, okay? Matter of fact, I'm going to put up a side-by-side or maybe 2 separate video pictures from the last podcast show that I did just 2 weeks ago before the holiday and now, and let's see what the difference is in debt in just 2 weeks, right? Because we can't afford this. You can't afford this. If you want to know why your groceries are so high, your insurance is so high, housing is so high, life is unaffordable, it is government debt and government spending and the Federal Reserve having to print a bunch of money to help fill in the gap that the taxpayers can't afford, right? Now, one of the most important things to remember about this entire thing is that now Trump is talking about having us, you, the taxpayer, foot the bill to rebuild Venezuela, right? We have to give ExxonMobil, Citgo, Chevron, billions of your dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars to rebuild the oil fields, the pipes, right? The infrastructure. And they're not only talking about rebuilding the oil fields, he's talking about rebuilding their roads and bridges and all of their infrastructure. What about the American infrastructure? You know, I went across the country last April. I literally drove from South Carolina all the way to the border of California. And I could tell you, in red states and blue states, there's poverty out there. There's crippling roadways, towns that have been completely destroyed, right? We have farmers on the balls of their ass begging the government for money because they can't make their next payments, right? We have a record number of auto delinquencies. We have foreclosures going up. We have homes that can't sell. Prices are going down in housing, right? The stock market priced in gold has gone down. Even though it hit a new nominal high, in gold it's down. And which means that we actually have a lower standard of living, right? More people than ever are having to have 2 and 3 jobs at a time, right? And here you have Trump out there talking about making Venezuela great again. Well, how about making the American people great again by getting government off our back, right? And unleashing the American entrepreneurial spirit, right? Venezuela is not part of the United States, right? They did nothing to us. They did not attack us. They are not a threat to our sovereignty. What's a bigger threat to our sovereignty is a national debt that keeps climbing. Then Trump, in the meeting, right, at the Kennedy Center with Republicans, is saying, what the hell is wrong with the voters? Why aren't they buying his bullshit? And, you know, like I said before, the poll came out that 1 out of 3 Americans support what he did in Venezuela. And guess what? When Americans find out that they're going to foot the bill for rebuilding Venezuela and giving the oil companies more welfare, right? Trust me, that's going to get even lower, right? And I do want to have a message for people that are out there who's like, oh, well, you know, there are people cheering in the streets of Venezuela. And my cousin, you know, he was a Venezuelan and he likes it, or somebody in South Florida or New York likes it. Oh, look, I mean, these people are cheering. Maduro's gone. I got some news for you, honey, and madam and sir, fellow Americans, that if they took out Trump, you would have people cheering in the streets, okay? Or Biden or Obama, right? That's not a measure of freedom, right? That's not a measure of doing the right thing, right? There's always going to be people who cheer when the opposition gets taken out. I mean, look at the reaction, what happened to Trump in Butler, Pennsylvania. There were people mad that the guy missed, right? Look at Charlie Kirk, right? There were people celebrating what happened to Charlie Kirk. You can't use that as a measure. What you should use as a measure is, what does the Constitution say about this stuff? Where does the Constitution say that the government can steal from Peter and Paul to give it to Jesus down in Venezuela, or to give it to ExxonMobil? Where in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights, does it say that the president or the federal government has those powers? It doesn't. I'm going to post a picture of the Bill of Rights. Where in the Bill of Rights does it say any of this? It doesn't, right? So I want to play the next clip where Trump is talking about what the hell is going on with the people. Why aren't they buying this? Let's play the next clip. I'll see you on the other side.
Could explain to me what the hell's going on with the mind of the public, because we have the right policy.
So anyway, a thing to understand is that, you know, usually when you enter a war, right, usually that's when you have the most support by the people. This engagement here, and I know that they're trying to call it a law enforcement occurrence. This is clearly a war effort, right? Could you imagine a foreign country bombing D.C., stealing President Trump and Melania, and calling that not an act of war? Saying, oh, well, you know, they had an arrest warrant in, I don't know, Moscow, and the Russians just came and took Trump. Would you be saying the same thing, or would that be an act of war, right? Why is it good for you, but not for them? See, it's this double standard I cannot stand in both parties. Right now, it just happens to land on Trump, right? But it's complete nonsense. Then you've got America's tallest dildo, Lindsey Graham, on Air Force One, which I'm going to get into right now. Another disastrous press conference by Trump. You know, him and Howard Lutnick and Lindsey Graham. And Lindsey Graham's over there foaming at the mouth, talking about, we're going to take Greenland, you know, we're going to take Cuba, you know, we're going to take Mexico, you know, we're just going to conquer this entire side of the hemisphere. Again, you, the taxpayer, you know, they make it look like, oh, you know, look at how easy this is. You know, we just remove leaders and poof, everybody's just going to work for us. Trust me, you are not going to see a dime of the oil in Venezuela. You are not going to see a dime. Actually, you're the one that's going to pay out. You're going to lose. You're going to be the loser, okay? And you know what? If you support this nonsense, then you have no right to complain about prices and why things are so expensive and why, as the years go by, your standard of living keeps falling, or why the government keeps stealing your freedoms, right? Because if they could steal their freedoms, they could steal your freedoms, and they steal them every single day that these bastards are in Washington, D.C. That's what they do best. So anyway, Trump had this press conference, like I said, with Howard Lutnick and America's dildo, Lindsey Graham. And Trump talked about meeting with the oil companies before the attack. Play the clip.
We have some good people. We have Senator Lindsey Graham.
Hello,
We
everybody.
have Howard Lutnick, Commerce. We have Steve Miller. We have a lot of people.
People then before the operation took place.
Yes.
Did you maybe tip them off about
Before and after. And they want to go in, and they're going to do a great job for the people of Venezuela. And they're going to represent us well.
So what you have to remember is that before the attack, Trump didn't even talk to the Gang of Eight, right? He didn't even go to Congress, right? He didn't even, you know, what he did was he talked about taking back the oil that Venezuela stole, right? And of course, that's a ridiculous claim when he sits there and says that Venezuela stole our oil. Okay, first of all, it's the people of Venezuela's oil, right? If I take my money, let's just say, okay, because I do business, you know, basically overseas, right? Because I invest overseas, I invest in different money markets and things, right? Emerging markets. And when I do that, and I trade on platforms that are not in America, but on platforms that are held by other nations, I have a risk. Now, if that government shuts down that platform, and let's just say my money disappears, right? I can't go back and say, oh, you know what? That was our platform because I invested in that platform, right? Just like, you know, people take risk investing in other countries, right? If they're going to build a factory or a home or something like this, especially in a heavily socialized country, right? And again, who owns the land? Who owns the minerals? Who owns the resources? The nation owns it, right? It's so strange to me because the same people who are outraged over Venezuelan socialism, and how Venezuela confiscated, what they did was they nationalized the oil, okay? At one time, before Nicolas Maduro, there was Chavez. Chavez was in power, and what he did was he says to the oil companies, hey, look, we have to rebuild Venezuela. We have a bunch of oil. And he taxed them 40%. He says, hey, look, you got to give us 40%. And for a while that worked, right? Venezuela was producing a lot of oil. As a matter of fact, I remember, because back then I used to live in New York, and in the wintertime, Venezuela actually used to give New York free oil to poor people. And then Venezuela says, hey, you know what? You got to give us 45%. And America, congressmen in America were saying, oh, this is terrible. How dare the Venezuelan government charge, the oil companies 45%. Then Chavez, then Maduro takes over and says, hey, you got to give 65%. Then you got to give 70%, right? Then you got to give 80%. And that's when it collapsed. The oil market there. And as Maduro, what happened was when Chavez was president, I'm kind of giving a little backstory. When Chavez was president, George Bush started leveling sanctions on Venezuela. And the backstory with that is that after 9/11, Bush went down to Venezuela. And he basically says to Chavez, hey, we want to build a military base in your capital city, Caracas. And Chavez says, okay, but that's to be one condition, Chavez goes. And Bush says, what? You let me build a base in Miami. If you let me build a base in Miami, I'll let you build a base in Caracas. And ever since then, Bush says, what are you crazy? Bush goes, I can't let you build a base in Miami. That's ridiculous. Well, then you understand why you can't build a base in our land. How did George Bush react after that? He went in front of Congress after 9/11 and gave that famous speech with the axis of evil. And ever since then, Republican and Democrat have been beating the war drum, going after Venezuela, putting blockades against them, sanctioning them, which destroyed their economy, destroyed their way of life. We made it so that they couldn't get financing, okay? Because again, we have the world's reserve currency, right? They can't trade, they can't get loans, and it impoverished the nation. And now that we have helped to destroy these people, and mind you, sanctions affect the poor people much worse than the people in power, right? And so does manipulating currencies and making it so that they can't trade with other countries. Now, what was the crime that Venezuela did to deserve all these blockades? Joe Biden putting a bounty on Maduro's head. What did they do to deserve that kind of treatment? And then, then Americans have the audacity to sit there and wonder why Venezuelans are fleeing their country to come to America for a better life. Well, we helped to destroy their economy systematically through these processes, right? Just like we've destroyed the economy of Cuba. We've helped to destroy the economy of Cuba. It's the same thing, right? Now, that's not to say that the socialist policies in those countries have not added to the misery of those countries, but there is no doubt that when you take away a country's ability to trade, to take out loans, to do banking, right, to be on a system, the world system, that absolutely cripples a nation. And that's what you have. And that's why so many people flee Central America, South America, these places, wherever they have these sanctions and they're kicked out of banking and all this, and where we overthrow leaders and coup d'etats in South America. I mean, what we've done to South America and Central America is absolutely abhorrent. And again, as a libertarian and independent, somebody who supports freedom and individual liberty and sound economic policies, I do not endorse any of those government systems down there, right? I don't believe in socialism. I don't believe in big government. You know, I believe in sensible government, right? You can help the poor, right? You can help the needy, right? But do I want to give a check to somebody so they could take that check and go to the country club with it? No, of course not. Now, I know I kind of strayed off topic a little bit, but, you know, all of this kind of plays in to what happened in Venezuela, because the drumbeat started 25, 30 years ago, okay? And it's people like Lindsay Graham who this man has never met a war he didn't like. And this guy somehow infected Trump. And what really infected Trump, and, you know, I blame Lindsey Graham, but I blame Trump because Trump put his purse, his wallet, his bank account before the American people, okay? He clearly put his finances ahead of everything because that's what this is about. Because Trump was asked about, you know, on the ship, on Air Force One, if they would have free and fair elections, right? And just in case if you were wondering, because again, that's what Fox News and Newsmax and CNN and all the stations are talking about. Oh, well, now it's great that Maduro's gone, because now these people are better off. Well, I got some news for you. Trump said, no, I'm not focusing on that. We're focused on the oil. Play the next clip.
Are you going to demand free and fair elections in the short term in Venezuela?
Well, it depends on, what you're talking. We have to do one thing in Venezuela, bring it back. It's a dead country right now. Big investments by the oil companies to bring back the infrastructure.
Then, okay, so now Trump, he's clearly focused on the oil and helping the oil corporate masters and making sure that you, the taxpayer, gives them all this free welfare so they can expand their empires, right? Their corporate empires. Trump then starts talking about Greenland and how we need to take it over, right? Let's play that clip.
By the way, I will say this about Greenland. We need Greenland from a national security situation. It's so strategic. Right now, Greenland is...
Then Trump finally is asked, are you willing to put troops on the ground if necessary? Let's say the vice president, and by the way, the vice president of Venezuela has come out. She's demanding the president to come back. She's saying he was kidnapped, which is true, that, they don't have a right to do this. And apparently there have been battles on the streets of Caracas the past few nights. And, these people are suiting up for war now. And, last time, our troops went in and some got injured. Chances are next time they could become unalived. And look, when I say unalived, it's not because I'm the P word. It's because YouTube will punish my account if I say the other word. because it's owned by Google. So I just want to put that out there. If I ever use, or you see somebody on YouTube use the word unalive, that's why. But Trump was talking about putting troops on the ground. Play the clip.
That's off the table now.
No, it's not. If they don't behave, we will do a second strike.
The question is that the American troops, are they going to be on the ground? They're doing any kind of peacekeeping? I think Americans are very...
It depends on what happens. It depends a little bit on the new administration, if you want to call it.
So anyway, here you have Trump saying, yes, he's willing to put boots on the ground if necessary. He's willing to attack again if necessary, if they don't do what we want, right? So basically... all of you people who voted for Trump, who, when Trump was out there saying, and I'm going to play the clip of Trump saying, no more regime change wars in that speech.
We must abandon the failed policy of nation building and regime change. Regime change takes chaos. You've seen how that works over the last 20 years. That hasn't been too good. We're getting out of the nation building business.
We're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place.
And now you have the guy saying, yeah, we're willing to go to war. This is our stuff. We're going to take everything on this side of the hemisphere. It's all mine, 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 mine. Screw those people. Screw their resources. We have to give everything to our corporate masters. Screw them. Screw you, the taxpayer. You're on the hook. Meanwhile, Trump and his cronies are going to laugh all the way to the bank. So anyway, I wanted to get on. I wasn't sure if I was going to make a video or not. Like I said, I'm not feeling good. But I wanted to give my perspective on Venezuela. I clearly, as you could see, I'm against this war. I'm against war in general. Nobody wins in war, okay? And yes, there are times when you have to stand up and fight. This is not one of those times, right? Venezuela did not attack us. They our sovereignty was not in jeopardy, right? So when Trump says, "Oh, I had authority to do this," no, he did not. And you know, I was watching a judge just yesterday on CNN. Actually, I watched two judges because I like to bounce around. So I watched one on CNN and I watched one on Fox Business. And both judges basically said that Maduro's case is an illegal case, but the judge will not throw it out, which means Maduro is not going to get a fair trial. Because if he got a fair trial, he would be sent home. Because what Trump did was absolutely illegal. You cannot just invade another country and steal a human being. You can't do it, right? So, especially if that human being is no direct threat to your sovereignty or to your country, okay? So, I just want to leave with that. And, you know, I try to preach the word of peace, right? You know, I want to trade with my neighbors. I want to the freedom of voluntary actions, right? If government has to force you to do something, that means it's not good, right? I want you, the taxpayer, to decide what you do with your money and your resources, right? If you're so strongly supportive of Venezuela and you want to help the Venezuelan people, then guess what? Cut a check. Go down there. Be a mercenary. Help those people, right? But what you don't get to do is use our military, going in there, murdering 80 to 100 people, getting our soldiers injured, which nobody, again, is talking about but me, and stealing from the taxpayer to help fund the oil corporate gods. So anyway, I wanted to give my perspective. I appreciate you. I'm thankful for you, patriots. And I promise to always stand up for liberty, justice, freedom, and of course, sound economic policies. Stay strong, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care.